So, got up pretty late today, so I didn't have a lot of time. But I did manage to do that thing today. Today was a solid yes. I printed out fully the new edition of this. This is my old edition, the first edition, so to speak, the prototype. And it's the big thick one with a lid that is too deep for the dice, so it works pretty well. It's pretty neat, it's pretty solid, and it fits things quite properly. This is the new one. This is the thinner one. You can see the height difference. Same width, same width there. But this one I have the dice in right now. It stays on. The lid, it stays on. And it's a little tricky sometimes to pull off the lid, understandably. I don't have the sides that have the thing marked, but as you can see, there's a little difference to the design. You can see it back there. But if I make sure I have it oriented right, okay, put it there. So they have these little grooves here with a little notch at the bottom. And I only did it to two sides. But those little grooves are made to fit these little notches into them. The little notches, these notches slide by those notches and sit beneath them. Within them, I hold my dice. But yeah. Little notches are on the outside, and I made little grooves so that I could put notches on the inside, and when they slide past each other, they click the lid into place. So now the lid is even more functional because the container can be turned upside down without the lid falling off. Unlike this one, which just wow, that's actually sticking more than it usually does. But yeah, it just falls. It can be a little snug, and the snugness can keep it in sometimes, but it is prone to just falling out. So I made this new iteration, a couple grooves. Now, the depth of the big groove is greater than the width of the notch on this side, but the added width of both notches, the ones inside and out, overlap each other is in terms of their distance. So that's how they can click into place. They can still move past each other, thankfully, because there's not too much of an overlap. But there's enough of an overlap for them to click solidly into place and hold the container. Also being able to be opened, so it can slip past each other and lock in place. It can also slip out and be opened. So now I have a solid container that can keep the dice inside, and it functions. However, this will not be the last design, as there's still a few little functional issues that are that could be better upgrades, right? Like for instance, this is kind of hard to grip to pop off. It's not that hard. It's definitely not terrible. When the lid is on, there's no easy way to tell which sides have the grooves, which can help you in figuring out how to open it if you're having issues. If I were to take try to open it from one of the sides. It doesn't have the grooves. Wiggling it back and forth like that just makes a bit of a mess. A little noisy. I wonder if you can hear me past the dice. But yeah, it's so much easier to open it if you're opening it from the sides that the grooves are on. With those in mind. Maybe it's random because I'm trying to do that. Okay, yeah. But it works. Kind of similar to the way I made the luster crystal fit into its harness. Very similar. Not the same mind, but similar. But yeah, I could design little finger holds so that I don't have to rely too much on my my grip strength or just the friction from my fingerprints, my skin upon the plastic to open off the lid. I could design finger holds into it so that I could have a better time gripping it to pull it out. Besides that, not a lot else. I could add some little places for maybe like an emblem or something to lock onto it. I could design an emblem to put atop it. That would be fun. Don't really know. Don't really have too many ideas for how I could do that while still making it fairly easy to design. But I have a few. Right now it's in gray, but I found a few more possible like multicolored filaments that I don't know how that works as they're printing, because it's not like it goes one layer of color at a time, but they look good on their pages, so maybe they'll be good. I might just order them, and they would definitely add quite a bit of color to the box design. Another thing about the design is the edges are a little sharp. I could round those off a little bit, and that would make it well, not feel so rigid, edged. Edges are sharp. If you hold it too tightly, it hurts. Pokes against your skin. So I could round those off a little bit so that they'd be easier to hold. Just more comfortable to have. And all. So yeah. But this is, seeing as tomorrow's my next D&D session, this is the container I will be using for these dice. So yeah. I look forward to the next session. But yeah, no, today I had that night shift, and I successfully printed those and discovered that they worked before work today. And then I helped my little brother with some computer problems, but we didn't make a lot of progress on that because he's using a rather slow laptop. It's an older one, so it's pretty slow. But yeah, we're doing good with that. Aside from that today, that's pretty much all I got up to. I've still not polished my sword. I've still not oiled my sword to protect it from rust. I think I'm going to try to do that tomorrow morning before I head to work, because it's I have a shorter, later morning shift tomorrow, and then D&D afterwards. After work tomorrow, I'll have some time to go home and walk my dog, prepare for the session, bring my dice and all that, and then after that, I will go home. But as far as what I'll do today, what I'll do tomorrow is I think my goal is going to be just to get my sword oiled because I'm going to be bringing it to the session. I don't know if I've shown my sword on this. I'll grab it for you guys. Alright. So this sword I got at a rent fair. They called it a 1.5-hand sword. I have not oiled it since I got it, and I got it almost 2 years ago. And they recommended I oil it every month or so. It's a really dry climate where I'm at, so in my research for how, why, and when you oil swords, because I have been concerned, I don't want to ruin the sword. It's a good sword. So in the research, I have learned that in drier climates, it's reasonable to not oil swords for like 3 or 4 months. But it's been almost 2 years for me. So I have given it an inspection from time to time. I do pull it out just to look at it because it's a cool sword. This is a sheath, it's leather. But this is the sword. As you can see, there is little to no rust, or just plain old no rust. This little black line in it has always been there. But I live in a rather dry climate, and this is what the sword looks like. As you can see, it's got, it can fit 2 hands on the hilt, but, and it's not incredibly sharp on the sides, but it is fairly sharp on the tip. It's very pointy. I imagine its dullness on the sides is due to, like, you want to clash blades. If it was sharp on the side, it would be, a sharper blade would be dented a lot by heavier sword impacts. But I do like it. It's cool. It's got that slick look to it. And it's not built on any rust that I can tell since I got it. It's pretty dry here, so I can see why that might be. It's not like a purely clean blade, I guess. It's while looking at it in the light, I can see it's got some like particulates on it. So its sheen isn't perfect, of course. But I see no rust. I don't think so. I don't think there's any rust. But there are some places it could have rust. Well, it's been in the sheath most of the time. I don't really keep it out for long periods. I haven't used it on anything. I just hold it and look at it sometimes. When I bought it, the person told me it was a 1.5-hand sword, but on me it might just be a single-handed sword. And that is attributed to the fact that I'm quite tall for a human. Last time I gave myself my height a good measure, I was 6'5". So I'm pretty tall. Living under a loft roof presents difficulties, height-wise. My feet are always off my bed if I have them fully out. My bed's pretty long too, so it can fit me pretty well. But yeah, sword's pretty fun. I haven't used it on anything. Maybe one day I'll grab a watermelon and see what happens if I swing at it. Because after all, the side of the blade is not all that sharp, but it might, if I give it a good swing, it might be able to cut through a watermelon. I'll definitely be able to stab it because that tip is sharp, but if I'm going to go playing around with watermelons, I better have it nice and oiled. But yeah, that's why I want to oil it, because I'm going to be bringing it around, show it off tomorrow for my D&D session. It'll be fun. I like my sword. I want another one. I want more swords. Now that I have one, it's like I want to hoard swords. There were tons of different swords at that Ren Fair I'm talking about that I went to and checked out, and it was there were so many options. This is the first sword I got, and it took a while to decide. But I ended up thinking that for my first sword, I wanted nothing extremely flashy. I didn't want anything too fancy. I wanted kind of a default, kind of one-handed sword, and that was kind of sort of the image I had in my head, just like a typical knightly-ish sword. And so that's what I picked. That's what I had in mind when I picked this. And it works out. There were a ton of things there. There were katanas, there were like those Spanish swords, those rapiers, I think they're called. There were claymores, big broadswords, and there were so many things. Knives, spears, you name it, all sorts of crazy cool stuff. Axes, bows, good weapon, fantasy weaponry, not just fantasy, but like medieval weaponry. And it was all super fun and cool. And it awakened in me a very, a strong want for swords. I wanted to go back to the Ren Fair with my family last year, because the first time I went with a friend who'd been before. I wanted to go last year with my family, but since none of our summer plans really lined up enough for us to go, we didn't. And I wanted to buy a kopesh, one of those Egyptian swords that are kind of, they're straight and then they're curved and straight again, used for hacking and stabbing. This is more of a stab / dueling blade, by my estimate. I'm no expert, but I wanted a kopesh. But now, as summer approaches and the Ren Fair will become a thing, I'm thinking I want, there's a couple things I want. I still like the idea of the kopesh. The obsidian look to it was really cool. It wasn't made of obsidian, obviously. It was made of some kind of metal, but it was black and it was neat looking. I like the idea of the kopesh. I like the idea of like a katana, because, those are sharp and cool and they're used to cut stuff. While I was there, I saw these big, like, claymore-looking katanas. They look like big, heavy, two-hand wielded katanas, as big as a claymore. And I looked into them. They have a name. I don't know the name. I could look it up. I'm not going to. But they have a name. They're not called katanas or claymores. But they were really big, and apparently, I saw some videos of people explaining them, actual sword experts explaining them, and they're not quite as practical as katanas are, apparently. But I saw like a big blue one. Like there was this place at the Ren Fair that had a bunch of custom weaponry. Like they had like a Mjolnir, not like the MCU Mjolnir, but like a mythical Mjolnir. It's like, it kind of had like an arched look, and had Norse runes on it and stuff like that. It was really cool. But they had like multicolored spears, like there were blue, purple, gold spears, stuff like that. There was a giant blue, claymore type katana. But yeah, so if I go to Ren Fair this year and if I'm able to secure the funds for a sword, then I would like something like maybe a kopesh or maybe a big old claymore. I'm not that into rapiers, those little Spanish swords or whatever else, with the crazy designs, on like the crossguard. This is the crossguard. Instead of this, they have like a big round crazy design to cover your hand. So I'm not really into that. They just have like this little pointy stick of a blade. But no, if I were to get another sword, I'd get either some kind of katana, or maybe like a big katana, or a claymore type thing, a kopesh, something unique, something flashy and fancy. I want something peculiar, so to speak. But that's enough of me rambling. It's been 20 whole minutes, and this video is probably going to take an hour to upload. So yeah, I summed up today, tomorrow, work, D&D, oil sword. That's the hope. Almost forgot the dog segment. There's the little boy, dear Siren. I already took him off of his last walk, and now he's lying down, ready to sleep. But that's that. It's going to be a full day, no doubt. But thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share with me your thoughts in the comment section below. Share me with your friends, family, acquaintances, anyone you think you can find who might like my content. Everything I have to say said, good night.